Reggae Month is February. February is Reggae Month. Come catch the rhythm virtually. We gone online totally on Reggae Month TV. Mega reggae concerts, interesting reggae documentaries, informative reggae symposia, and lots more. Online daily from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. on PBCJ, Jam Vision, JCDC Facebook page, and several other cable and social media platforms. Details available on the Reggae Jamaica mobile app, Reggae Month TV. Tune in daily and be entertained and informed. Do you have the Reggae Jamaica mobile app on your phone? No? Well, you could be missing out on news, views, interviews, events, and so much more about music across the globe. Information at your fingertips about Reggae Month and other exciting reggae events. That's the Reggae Jamaica mobile app, now available in the Apple or the Google Play Store. Get it now!
Everybody wanna feel. Good evening and welcome to another episode of Reggae University inside of Reggae Month as we celebrate Reggae Month all of February. Thank you for joining us today, and I promise you we have a very exciting program lined up for you with some amazing guests, some folks I've known before, some folks I'm just meeting, and just reading through people's bios and getting the information. I'm quite excited to see where this conversation is going to go today, and I'm supremely happy that you're able to take the time to be with us. What we're talking about this evening is staying fit in this rat race, mental, physical, and spiritual wellness for creatives. Of course, it couldn't just be mental, physical, and spiritual. We've got to tie it into our creatives. So again, welcome. My name is Sherando Ferril, and I will be guiding the conversation this evening as best as I can, and I will try my best not to get too emotional, because, we're actresses, so we like the trouble. I will maintain my composure, and I would like to welcome my guests on set. Sevana, who is a recording artist. Sevana, please tell us a little bit about you.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. I am a singer, songwriter, actress, film director.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Ooh, have I seen any of the films that you've directed, possibly?
No, they're just, all of them have been web-based so far, and they've all actually been focused on telling the story of Black people.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's been to kind of give voice to Black stories, Black narratives.
Okay. So when you say web-based, is it something that we could potentially access?
Absolutely, yeah. You could search FAIR on YouTube. You could also look for They Still Want to Kill Us, and you could look for Ride Out to Vote.
Okay, excellent. All right, tell me a little bit about your music, though.
Oh, my music, I just released a single yesterday.
Oh, wow.
It's called Brand New, and it was done on Colors Stage. They have a huge platform, and I'm really grateful for the opportunity, and it's a beautiful song. I love it. Talks about love. Actually, it's the dreamy version, like the fantasy version of love, which I find myself writing about a lot.
Nice. All right. So since it's not a one-on-one interview, I'm not going to ask you too much more about your business and your inspiration.
Okay.
Also. All right. Tavia Benjamin is a social impact strategist and an author. Good evening. Tell us a little bit more about you other than what I just said.
Thank you so much for having me. Well, I write poetry. I love words. As you saw there, I'm an author of a book called Words Beyond the Page, which is a compilation of poetry. And on the social impact side, it's really about cause marketing. So I write social impact projects that affect society. Recently, I wrote an anti-bullying project called I Am Human. You can find it on YouTube. I directed a docufilm, an anti-bullying docufilm.
Nice.
And the name of it is I Am Human JA. You can find it there and watch the story there.
Wonderful. All right. I definitely need to know more about each of you and what you do and how it relates to mental health. But we also have guests on Zoom. Tehuti Maat. My God, please tell me I got that right after you corrected me before we went on camera.
Perfect. I mean, couldn't be better, actually.
I understand that you're a lifestyle transformational consultant. What exactly does that mean?
Well, what that means is that I help people to transform their lifestyles from wherever they are to another place with the hope that that other place is healthier. And essentially, most of the problems we have are not solved by restoration of symptoms, so to speak, but a transformation of the lifestyle, getting to another place where you actually can start to address the root of the problem rather than just getting some kind of symptomatic relief. So I like to deal with the root, and I am a student of nature.
Nice. All right, it sounds like we're going to talk after this done. All right, Kenrese Carter. Kenrese, are you online with us? Hi. Lord, you smell nice and bright. I like it. Please tell us a little bit about you instead of me diving into this bio. Not hearing you. Are you sure you are not muted? Do you want to double check for me?
I am unmuted now.
All right, wonderful. This Zoom
Thank you
world.
so much for having me, Sherando. I'm pretty sure we met before somewhere in the past.
We have.
I remember meeting you through a friend.
We have.
Huge. You know, I want to say first of all, before I even talk about myself, shout out to Tehuti, right? Because I'm about to tell you about my transformation, and that actually happened while I was working in corporate because of this very man, right? So now, and when I saw him on the bill, I was like, oh my goodness, this is such a powerful connection. So I'm actually a board certified clinical nutritionist. I'm so sorry. Let me just make sure all the devices
we have a penny jar for the folks on Zoom. So every time something goes off,
I'm on mute. But my computer decided to do that. That's what happens with Apple, right?
Okay. So maybe it's not a penny jar, it's $100 jar, but keep going.
We can afford it, right? So just a little bit about my background. So I actually spent a number of years studying nutrition. I started out as a health coach. And throughout my journey, you know, working in corporate Jamaica and wider to corporate America, I decided to actually become a clinical board certified nutritionist, which means that I do functional nutrition, which is very similar to what Tehuti does, but kind of a different spin. I do work with people with chronic illnesses. Currently today, though, I do work for a clean pharmaceutical company, the first of its kind in America, and I'm the vice president of human resources. There are VP of people and culture. And there's a lot, you know, intertwined in that in terms of what I do, in terms of my role there and how that plays into my background in nutrition. Okay. And that's it in a nutshell.
Wonderful. All right. Okay, so before we go any further, I want to say thank you to our sponsors who have made this possible. It's the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport, the Chase Fund, VM Group, AutoSmart, Starlight Production, Footprints Cafe, and Creation Foods. And remember this evening, what we're talking about is staying fit in this rat race, mental, physical, and spiritual wellness for creatives. So you're sitting closest to me, so I'm going to start with you. So clearly you're a creative. That's why you're here. Yes. You're a singer. Let me take it to a very obvious place, the COVID situation. Yeah. How did COVID and what happened during the time of COVID, because COVID don't gone, but you know, we're learning now we've adapted, so we're surviving. How did that affect your mental health as a performing artist?
Detrimentally.
Yeah.
You know, because the thing is, I was quarantined by myself in my apartment, alone, right? Wow. And we were terrified. They were telling us, oh, if you buy a grocery, you have to wash it off because the germs are going to kill you. It was very frightening, and not being able to go anywhere, just the option being taken away of going someplace. I know that, you know, the rich people them could have do the staycation at the hotel and so on and so forth. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But
that ain't us.
For some of us who were afraid of doing even that, right? I was by myself, and I don't know, things didn't feel tangible for a little while. Yeah. It was very scary. Sometimes I had to hug myself to remember that I was real. It was the cabin fever. I don't know. I just get an extreme version because I am used to traveling a lot and performing here and there and so on, and it really got to me.
Yeah, I remember the first couple of weeks we went to the supermarket. I have 2 teenagers, and my daughter was already a germaphobe. Yeah. So when we went to the supermarket and we bought all the snacks, she would be spraying them down and then washing down everything. Yeah. And my mother is over 70. So there was all that frenzy, you know, of how do we stay fit, healthy, how do we ensure that we're all okay, you know, exactly. And she's at risk, and you know, and we have to do this and we have to do that and we have to do that. And I remember I made a post during that time, still on my Instagram, I'm really not going to take it down, where I know I looked a little crazy, if that's the word, because I really, and it was probably just about 3 weeks in, because it's interesting how we don't even recognize what freedom means until it's taken away from us. Yeah. So for me, that was one of the hardest thing for me, you know, the fact that I just had to be still, but you were by yourself. Yes. At least I had my children. Yes. You know what I mean? So in terms of, aside from hugging yourself to remind yourself that, you know, you're there, what were some of the methods that you used?
I wrote a lot. I was up. I have anxiety. I struggle with anxiety and depression. And so I found myself up a lot. My insomnia was kind of just ravaged me in those early times. No, still, but more so then. And whenever I was awake, whenever I'd find myself awake in the middle of the night, I would just dance around in my apartment, just like, or I'd call my friends, FaceTime was a savior. Right. They call mommy so that she's all right, call my sister, call my niece and my nephew and my family overseas. So.
How did this affect the type of music that you wrote, though?
God, we did write some sad songs still. Yeah. I think, honestly, I'm a sad songwriter.
Okay.
In general, is that a good thing to say about myself? But
that's all right. That's like how some actresses are dramatic actresses versus comedic actresses.
I think my songwriting and my musical style is really emotional, right? And so it got dark. It got dark. Yeah. Which is sometimes you only need to express that. So I don't know if I'll even probably share that music that I wrote, but
sometimes it's just about having an outlet to let it out, but not necessarily to share it with everybody else. Tavia, I understand that you are also into farming
and gardening. Yes.
Right. So tell me if that is something that you could potentially use to help with mental or physical health in any way.
Absolutely.
And how you do that?
For me, my plants, I love them. I use them as my time of meditation. I take care of them. It is very therapeutic when you plant some pepper seeds and you go outside and you see them popping up. You're like, oh my God. Yeah. And just being able to take care of them, just having that moment of stillness allows you to really just get into yourself and to your mind. And even commenting on the question you posed before, what I noticed is during that time, it became more important to look at what I feed myself, because there was information coming from everywhere about all sorts of things. I had to filter. I had to really filter a lot of the things that came in and really become more still and understand myself more. And gardening and farming really helped with that. And I was lucky to have my niece with me. I actually videotaped some of the series. You can find it on YouTube, Grounded Poetry Garden, where I basically planted with her and then also wrote poetry to complement these. And so that really helped to just kind of, settle my mind. So I'm not too focused on all the negative energy that's coming all around me.
So we just spoke about farming and planting, and so I want to kind of bring Tehuti in. You mentioned that you deal a lot with, kind of just going back to the earth. How exactly has your work in going back to the earth, how has that helped in terms of wellness for your clients and for yourself?
Well, my journey into natural living and natural health really began with an excitement that I felt whenever I heard the word nutrition. When I was a little young boy, not even understanding what nutrition was. And as I learned more and more over time, I then noticed that I had a very intense appreciation and attachment to nature, And wherever I found myself from I hit my 20s, whether it was on a rented property or some property owned by a family or what have you, instinctively, intuitively, immediately, a garden starts to form around me. If I'm in a hotel for a week, I'm going to end up having some bottles with water and plants that survive in water surrounding me. So there's this intuitive connection that I've had towards nature. Therapeutically, I began with herbs and self-practice, use myself as an experiment together with the research. And then I went into food and studied nutrition in the medical faculty. And while all of that was happening, I think I was evolving not just on the physical level, but also on the spiritual level, because I was learning and teaching yoga. I was involved in almost every holistic organization. I was the president of the Vegetarian Society for 10 years. I was the chairman of the board of directors of Oneness Holistic, which hosted the only 2 holistic expos in Jamaica. And my whole life just seemed to be drawn into nature. And it's a personal walking experience that, although I never ever planned to share necessarily with others or premeditated helping others, just out of love and interacting with people, I found myself, sitting in a chair and then talking to people. So it couldn't have happened without going to the earth and growing the herbs and so on, and learning about the healing properties of foods and so on. So I guess you could say the therapeutic aspect of herbs and foods have played their part in terms of bringing me to where I am in my practice. As a detoxification facilitator, for example, I rely heavily on herbs and fruits, vegetables, and so on to facilitate the detoxification experience. And because fresh or freshness is critical, that's where the garden comes in. There's a very special thing, and I listened to what Taylor was saying, very inspiring. When you can grow, put that seed in the earth and watch it grow and then harvest it and then consume it. Very different when you go to a supermarket and purchase and then
there's
consume.
a different kind of connection that you make with it, because you've actually seen the process as it goes through, and then you helped it to grow, and it in turn helps you to be well. Your body responds.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And the whole concept of green thumb is one that I've always interpreted from the perspective of just the compassion that you give to your plants. I mean, the plant, you love that plant. So if it's drying out, you're going to water it. If there's a bug on it, you're going to pick it. You're going to be concerned if you see some white flies on it, you're going to do something about it. And essentially, that love that you give to the plant manifests in how you take care of it. And so the plant blossoms and it does very well. You take care of the plant, it takes care of it.
Right. So I want to bring Kenrese in on the conversation. The word wellness has been tossed around. We're in this new era where we talk a lot about wellness and physical wellness and mental wellness and all that kind of good stuff. So Kenrese, I want you to tell us, based on your experience, what does wellness really mean?
Wow, that's a tough one, Sherando. I think that wellness for me personally, first of all, wellness is what it means to an individual, right? Because what I see is a lot of people have, first of all, wellness has like 9 dimensions, right? So you're talking about spiritual, financial, and all the alleys that you can think of, right? So when somebody talks about wellness, it has to be a wholesome perspective. It can't just be, okay, I'm somebody that goes to the gym and I can lift 100 pounds or 300 pounds, but then the rest of your life is a hot mess. You're suffering from, mental issues that you're not dealing with. And I'm going to answer it in a little different way, because I want to say 2010, my math is not so good. 2010, I had an epiphany. I was working for a large telecoms firm, and I remember going to Tehuti, and, I remember with us talking about the dark night of the soul. I had this really great job. I was making a lot of money, but I just was not happy, and I remember Tehuti, I still have those notes, by the way, and I kept them, right? I take them with me everywhere I go. Tehuti, because you're going through a metamorphosis, like you're not fully all together there. And I think I was actually going through depression at the time, and I didn't even understand why I was going through depression, And we talked a lot about wellness. We talked a lot about and don't get me wrong, I do not want to minimize depression. I do know there's a clinical component where, there's chemical imbalances. But a lot of times when people are going through depression, it's some of the times, let me say that so I don't get in trouble, it's not as complex as you think it is. And part of it is not being your full self. And to me, that kind of encompasses that whole ideology of wellness, right? And, that took me on a journey. And of course, the journey led me to many countries later. And here I am today, right? Helping other people to understand themselves, helping them to understand what balance, and I put that in air quotes, what balance really means and what it means to be fully well, showing up as your authentic self. And one is not, you can't really transfer one piece to the other. So you have to put in the work. And I remember this morning I was actually in the gym with my trainer, and I said to him, I can no longer tell people that it's 90% diet. That's not true. It's a misnomer to tell somebody that everything is 90% diet, because there's so many different components for your whole being to be well. I don't want to go on and on, Sherando, but I hope I answered a part of your...
That's fine. I want to toss something out to any one of you who wants to answer. So we've spoken a little bit about mental health. We're obviously going to talk a lot more about that. But Tehuti mentioned something before that has been resting on me for a while, and anybody can kind of jump in and respond to this. When we talk about spirituality and spiritual wellness, what does that actually mean to you as an individual? Anybody?
Well, let me start off. I mean, for me, spirituality is connecting with who I am, and also connecting with a force that is higher than me. And I respect that for everyone, it can mean different things, and it doesn't mean that you go and pray to someone, but it can also mean you go and pray to someone. But it means that you appreciate that there is more to everything around you than you. There's always something greater than you. When I sit and I place my foot on the earth, I can appreciate that there's so much going on there that is greater than me right here. And for me, that can also be spirituality.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
I think for me, yes, spirituality is that. But then I also look at it as, you know, you have your physical self, you know, and then you have your soul and your spirit. And that when I think spirituality and I think spirit, that's what I think of. The part of myself that is working or should be working in synchronicity with my physical body. And in many ways it's the light that you see when you look into like people's eyes, and it's the thing that you tap into when you pray or when you meditate. And so for me, spirituality is really just connecting with the not necessarily visible but very potent, very crucial part of me that's connected to everybody else too. And you know,
that
what
energy.
she said, I like that, Savannah. That's such a powerful thing. I feel like spirituality for me is that untapped power that most people don't know that they have, you know. It's about just experiencing life in so many different ways. You know, for me, for example, I went on a spiritual journey for a 10-year run of just reading and evolving and experiencing and creating magic, doing things people told me, oh, you can't do that. I'm like, well, watch me, you know. And, you know, spirituality for me is the over 50, 60 countries that I've visited. I've lived in quite a few, and just seeing different people, different ethnicities, understanding that whole diverse force, recognizing that, like you said, like everybody else has echoed, that it's something greater than myself, you know, and paying homage to that. And the biggest thing is connecting with the earth. Like, you know, for me, spirituality is definitely magic.
All right. Tehuti, you want to jump in? Add anything, please?
Yeah, well, I mean, everything everybody has said is just so awesome. You know, I mean, for me, spirituality in essence is a journey towards self-knowledge, you know, and in discovering your true self, which has always been with us, you know. It watches us grow, it watches us change, it watches us evolve, it watches us in pain, it watches us in laughter. That part of you, which is always present, which we become quite aware of when we get still, you know. And the more we touch base with that divine aspect of us, is then the more we are able to exercise and manifest compassion. And I see spirituality as making those connections with nature and other people, so we see the oneness between us. And, you know, I see spirituality as more about breaking down the walls and the divisions that separate us, and more about connecting with the things that we share in common. You know, so from that perspective, it's almost like the antithesis of religion, although there are overlaps.
I didn't want to bring up the religion conversation, religion versus spirituality. It's at the back of my mind, but I'm going to leave it alone because that's not what this panel is about. What I will ask, though, is, well, I will say this first of all. A few years ago, I had the opportunity to do an audio documentary on mental health in Jamaica. And myself and my company were fortunate enough to, to be runners-up. It was an international thing. And thank you very much. We try. And one of the things, when I was doing my research, one of the things that sat with me, it's something I've known since I was growing up, but sometimes when you actually start to do research and talk to other people, you realize you're not you alone in other space there. I realized that within Jamaica and the wider Caribbean, mental health is not a conversation that we're trained to have, right? If you have whatever kind of issue as a child or teenager, even as a grown-up, because when you're big, you're supposed to be big and bad. You're not supposed to feel certain things. Man not supposed to have emotion and all of them things. What I found is when we go up against walls that we would call mental health challenges, issues, whatever the right term is, we are not encouraged to talk about it. We're not encouraged to identify that it is that. And therefore, a lot of people don't even have the tools to really deal with it. So I want to know amongst all of us, if there's anybody here who has had any experience like that, whether it's with yourself or with somebody else or something, where you have come up on an issue that in your heart of hearts, it is mental health, but because of how we are trained to not talk about it or how we're not trained to talk about it, it was handled in a way that was not the best way to handle it. Kenrese, you want to start with that one, please?
Boy, I was hoping she didn't pick on me. Like, don't pick me, teacher. But no, for real.
You put up your hand, Oh,
apparently, my computer is doing that. I didn't do it. No, I've seen many instances. So in my line of work, and I'm sure Tehuti deals with this as well, as integrated practitioners, there is a component that we have to be trained, not necessarily to deal with it, but to be able to identify it and then, send the persons to the right, practitioners who can assist them. I've seen that so many times, particularly when I was living in Jamaica, where people would clearly have an issue based on the behavior, based on the things they're saying, potential self-harm. And you would hear, walk it off or kind of downplaying it when you know that this is something that really needs to come to the forefront. And I just hope that if anybody is listening and feeling that way, know that you can reach out and get help, because mental illness is something that it doesn't have a face. You don't see it, but you know it based on the thoughts that you're harboring. For example, my first encounter with depression myself was actually postpartum depression. 2007, I had my first child, and I had no idea about postpartum depression at the time, and it wasn't as big as it is today. And I felt like I was going crazy. I remember going to work. Thank God my boss was German. At the time, I worked for the telecommunications firm. We're not giving them any free credit
Don't
here.
if them want, them can sponsor we, but want to.
Okay, well, do yourself. Okay, I was working for a German man at the time. He was the director of products, and I told him what was going on. We were great friends, and he told me that he thought I was going through this thing. And I went to a very well-known psychologist who told me, no, you don't, psychiatrist, or I can't remember which one it was, and they said, no, you don't need medication. But they still didn't give me the guidance. Thank God. I met Tehuti around that same time, and we realized it was just simply when a lot of times, you have a child, you're depleted nutritionally, because I wasn't prepared as I should have been, as now I know better today. So therefore, I was having that chemical imbalance, wasn't getting enough sun, and the story goes on and on. But the point is, I was feeling those things. I remember driving and feeling a sense of somebody's literally going to kill me, And I remember telling my parents, thank God they're more forward thinking, but I remember telling other people, and I kind of felt like they didn't understand, or you're going to be okay. That's all I could hear. Nobody was telling me, hey, go and seek help. It could have turned out worse. Thank God, I don't even remember how I got in touch with Tehuti, but somebody put me in touch and we figured it out, slowly but surely. And I'm pretty sure I had a couple times when I went to him because nobody else could help, And true. I think it's so important that when you're feeling whatever you're feeling, to vocalize it.
I'm going to add to that, though, because I, too, experienced postpartum depression when I had my son. I don't remember what happened when I had my daughter. That's a blur. But when I had my son, I know I experienced it. It was so vivid. I was sitting on the veranda, and I had my children a year apart. So it's almost like I had twins. Yeah. And I was sitting on the veranda. The baby was crying. He was probably about 2 months. And if you have kids, you know how that goes, you know. A lack of sleep, and you're breastfeeding, and so it's taking so much out of you. And again, like Kenrese said, nobody speaks to us about things like these. So when you're feeling something, first of all, you don't know that you're going to feel something, or you may feel something, because there's no conversation around that. So when I started to feel what I was feeling, fortunately, I had read some things, so I knew what I was feeling. Otherwise, it could have been far more devastating. I literally heard myself telling myself to take up that knife and kill my child. I kid you not. I heard it, but I knew what was happening. And so I went outside and I took a walk, went back inside, took up the baby, breastfed him some more, and we both fell asleep.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
real.
I heard, you know what, Sherando, I wanted to be very cautious.
No, not
You know, you have
cautious
your
around
brand.
here. Talk straight.
No, but say something. I heard many different things when I had my daughter,
There you go.
including through her through the window.
Yes.
And let me tell you something. At the time, it was so painful for me because I was this happy-go-lucky person, never experienced and always the life of the party. And here it was, all of a sudden, I had this newborn child. Things are coming from different directions, if you know what I mean. And nobody prepared me. Now I actually, the area of nutrition that I specialize in is hormone health. And I am now teaching women, especially my research was in perimenopause, for women who are, you know, in that 40 and going up before they get to menopause, because that's a whole other conversation, right? And what we don't do very well is tell people to prepare them for the different life cycle stages, right? So every different stage, from the puberty stage going on to, you know, the midlife crisis that people go through, requires, and I know we're talking about how do we stay healthy in a rat race, requires a different set of health tools and technology. And most people don't tell them. I am no proponent. I know, Tehuti, you're more focused on, like, you know, raw foods and things. Now that I've gone to clinical school, I no longer am a proponent of any one diet. Now, if you ask me what I eat, I will tell you, but because I understand that there are different clinical applications, sometimes, depending on what that individual is going through, you're going to need to apply that. And it's no different from when that mental thing is going on. Because let's say, for example, you're on medication. Some of those medications deplete certain nutrients, right? Which means you're going to have to replete by building back up. So a lot of nutrients, medications we take, for example, depletes your B vitamins, which is important for the mitochondria, right? And I don't want to get too technical, but Tehuti, you know what I'm talking about. And if you don't take those particular nutrients or have enough in your diet, what's going to happen is that you're going to malfunction. Think about putting sugar in your gas tank, right? Don't make any logical sense, right? And we do the same thing in our bodies. We put the wrong things in, things go haywire, and then our brains are not functioning correctly. And some of these very symptoms that we're having is based around that, right? And then we don't have the real conversations, and then we don't have the right practitioners. I've been dying to come back to Jamaica to do some of these things, and I'm so happy that JaRIA actually invited me on this panel, because I see the craziness that's going on, and Tehuti, I know you can't fight it alone. We probably need to reconnect, right?
And you know, just to jump in on what she talked about in terms of us malfunctioning, sometimes I notice, even with friends or colleagues, is that you notice a change in how you operate, but it's not so drastic that you would say, oh, I'm depressed, but you're sleeping a lot throughout the day. You're not productive, you're procrastinating. Those things, as I've read, is a sign of some form of depression, or some form that your mental health is not where it's supposed to be. And you know,
not showing up as your best self.
Maybe somebody would say, oh, you just have dropsy, oh, you're just tired, oh, you this, but you're not paying attention. Okay, there is something that is clearly wrong.
Change.
I need to get out more. I need to get some sun. I need to eat better. I'm eating all sorts of junk. People say, oh, Tavia, you cook every day. Yes, I cook every day because I want to feel well. So, you know, looking at those kinds of things too, I find are very, very important.
Yes, Sevana, you wanted to jump in?
No, I was thinking about you saying...
I'm coming to you, Tehuti.
Yeah,
we can't have this conversation without you. Welcome, man, welcome. Yeah.
No, I was thinking about what you said about... No, I was thinking about what you said about running into walls, knowing that you're struggling, but not necessarily having the space to share it. And I think, if I'm being really transparent, I think recently I said yes to a performance that involved traveling. And I think I had a lot on my plate. I was balancing a multiple different tasks. And between the rehearsal for this show and planning for this release and shooting this video and being in studio, I think I took on too much. And then it's kind of like 3/4 of the way through one of the journeys, I sputtered out, like I wasn't sleeping. I struggle with insomnia, and I kind of saw by the end of it, I was spent.
You're done.
I'm done out.
Yep.
Yeah, it was finished. And but there's no way to say that to people, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, event organizers don't want to hear say, oh, she's sad, or oh, she's struggling with sleep, or oh, she's depressed, or oh, she's triggered, or oh, she's anxious right now.
Show up and perform.
Exactly. So it's like I don't know if there's a space that exists for that without you sounding like entitled or like an idiot to people,
or weak,
exactly, or weak, where you can just say, I'm triggered right now.
Yeah.
I'm not able to do this right now.
Do it anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Fight through it.
Show up anyway. No, man, all right, man.
Yeah. Create a space for yourself.
It's like when you're young and you get a cut, them say throw dirt on it.
Yeah.
Or spit in there. But anyway, Tehuti, you need to contribute to bring some sanity to what I'm saying.
Let me just start by saying that one of the things I really appreciated about sharing with Kenrese over the years is just her honesty. She has never had a problem to just say it as it is, And whatever progress we made, was intimately hinged on that, and it takes a certain kind of a person like Kenrese to work through that honesty, to look at her own situation and get to a place where she is, right now, where she then is imparting some of her experiences that she learned to others, I want to start by saying that in my practice, most of the people who come to me, whether it be hypertension or what have you, I see on a very profound level that the issue is somewhat related to a lack of self-love, and it's that lack of self-love that makes them not paying the attention that they need to sleep, not paying the attention that they need to eat appropriately, just being too busy to take care of self and so on. And the more you start to love yourself, is the more you start to connect with the consequences of your actions. And the more you start to understand, why is it that I'm feeling down? Why is it that I have a headache? What have you? I'll say this, that one of the things that has helped to add to the confusion is that, and I am a product of a system too of people who have been trained. In that training, it's very structured. You have a certain kind of symptom, so here is the protocol to deal with it and so on. I studied nutrition for many, many years in the Faculty of Medicine, and I remember when I was just going there, my anticipation is that I would be going into an institution where I would see stately people eating salads and lots of fruit and, paying attention to exercise and so on. And without going into the details, I didn't find that, I'll also say that having studied nutrition for so many years, most of what I actually teach has very little to do with what I studied. It has more to do with the experiences that I've gained over the years through private research and learning from others, and really listening to self, which is a very important part of it. So essentially, when we look at the research, we see that depression occurs when 3 chemicals in the brain, serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine, goes out of balance. But as we continue the research, we get to understand that, hey, there are foods which can create this imbalance.
Interesting.
Deficiency in selenium, a deficiency in zinc, can lead to the imbalance. We see relationships between sunlight and depression. When you get that sunlight on your skin, then what it does, it leads to the increased production of a chemical in your brain called serotonin, which helps to reduce psychological stress. So one of the first things about avoiding depression is to be on the outside rather than just locked up in dark spaces. We see very carefully that, you know, when people don't forgive, when people don't culture loving emotions, and you then absorb all this negativity because of your ego, that can also lead you down a path of depression. Just that lack of forgiveness. I have seen lack of forgiveness lead to physical manifestations. We just, one more thing, a study by the University of Pennsylvania actually took a group of people and limited their sleep to only 5 hours per night, only 5 hours quality sleep. And within 2 weeks, those that were limited, and there's a control group who slept okay and never had these symptoms, within 2 weeks, they reported greater sadness, greater irritability, greater anger, greater anxiety, emotional instability, greater stress, and depression. You know, it's right there in the literature. So until we start to pay attention to all these areas that we are talking about as a group, the sleep, the sunlight, and so on, then depression remains as this mysterious little thing in a box that needs to be treated with just the common narrative that has been used, you know, psychologists and so on. And then we miss out on all the valuable information.
Without fully understanding the actual cause. Like you say, you go to the root of it, and we don't just treat the symptoms. Right. All right, so there's so much more that we need to talk about, and every time you talk to Tehuti, you dig up one next word about the ground. Oh my God, so pun intended. So we're gonna have to come back to talk a little bit more about that, but right now we're gonna take a break, and we're gonna have a performance from one of the finalists in the JaRIA Reggae Month Emerging Talent. They had a competition on the Instagram page, and one of the finalists who's performing for us now is called Kennedy. So let's take a look at Kennedy's performance, and then we'll come back and we'll continue our conversation on staying fit in this rat race, mental, physical, and spiritual wellness for creatives. Clear?
Sound isn't on. Oh dear.
There's no sound. We're clear, right?
Hearing my name, yeah, I'm ready. I got something to prove. Ready to do anything I gotta do. So meet me on the west side. I'm really loving your style. I don't wanna have to explain it. Just gon' give me some of your sweet love. Baby, my want and I need it for real. Can you see it? Just meet me on the west side. I'm really loving your style. I don't wanna have to explain it. Just come give me some of your sweet love. Baby, I want and I need it for real. Can you see it? Yeah. One stop, give me a minute. Pressure that I'm feeling, and I'm hoping that you're feeling it. Need your attention, pulling out all of my tricks. Promise that you'll never ever get another love like this. Whoa, whoa, feel the same. Do they ever catch you blushing when you're hearing my name? I'm ready, I got something to prove. Ready to do anything I gotta do. Meet me on the west side. I'm really loving your style. I don't wanna have to explain it. Just come give me some of your sweet love. Baby, my one want it, me need it for real. Can you see you just meet me on the west? Listen, no man, hey, I'm really loving your style. I don't wanna have to explain it. Just come give me some of your sweet love. Baby, I want it, me need it for real. Can you see it? I hope you're hearing what I'm telling you. I wanna tell you that my feelings true. Give me a chance, let me in your space. In your heart, me deserve a baby boy. You know I love your style. I wanna love you when I be you. Once you try, you not fi think twice. Everything nice on the west side, yeah. Oh, whoa, whoa, oh. Really loving your style. I don't wanna have to explain it. Just come give me some of your sweet love. Baby, I want it, me need it for real. Can you see it? Just meet me Bundy. Really loving your style. I don't wanna have to explain it. Just come give me some of your sweet love. Baby, I want it, me need it for real. Can you see it? Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Oh. Meet me on the west side.
All right, that was Kennedy, one of the finalists in the JaRIA Reggae Emerging Talent Instagram page competition. Thank you, Kennedy. And all right, we're going to meet up on the west side. I don't know. Anybody else says feel like they want to go up on the west side after that?
I'm from the west side, so I have to go back.
Yeah, just show off, so watch out, she just hype.
As you should.
And of course, we are inside of Reggae University as we celebrate Reggae Month. And it's brought to you by our kind sponsors, the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport, Chase Fund, VM Group, AutoSmart, Starlight Production, Footprints Cafe, and Creation Foods. And we have guests in studio with me. I have Sevana. And I have Tavia. And on Zoom, we have Tehuti and we have Kenrese. All absolutely amazing at what they do and what they bring to the table and what they've been sharing with us so far. So if you were late in joining us, bad on you, but just in the event that like it is busy or something, I'm not going to make you feel too bad. We've been talking about staying fit in this rat race, mental, physical, and spiritual wellness for creatives. So a lot of what we've been focusing on so far is really about the mental and the spiritual wellness. I want to talk a little bit more about the physical wellness and to kind of direct that more towards creatives. You know, and how creatives fit in all of this. Okay, so I can see a creative handling the spiritual aspect of it, right. Because there's something about connecting to self and people and earth and you know, and your higher self and whatnot in terms of spirituality for a creative and how we get our inspiration. But when it comes to the physical wellness, you know, and the mental wellness, mental health, I think sometimes, like you just said, Savannah, when it comes to the performing, if it is that you're just in a state, a mental state of whether it's depression, you know, or whatever we want to call it. Mental health is very tricky, so I don't like to play around with the terms too much if I don't understand them. But whether it's sadness or it's depression or it's clinical depression, whatever it is, when we as creatives get into that state, because there's no conversation about it, there's a lack of understanding as to how to deal with it. And then the folks who are on the other side of it, who don't necessarily understand what it means to be a creative, because to be a creative, don't easy, you know. Blacker Ellis and Ian Ellis, I remember we were making a joke some time ago, and they said to me, I think it's a Black or IT, I don't remember. One of them said to me, they're walking on the road and somebody just walk up to them and say, tell me one joke now, because they're a comedian. So as far as they're concerned, you must always have something funny to say, so tell me a joke. So it don't matter if you're in a sad space, you're in a bad place, if your relationship just broke up, if you're having problem at home with your kids, if you're having problem making money, that I want all other topic where creatives now get paid for their work. So all of those things that you have to battle, you know, the people on the other side who don't really understand that, they expect you to always show up, you know, and deliver, right? So I want to talk a little bit more. Of course, God, I do that. I want us to talk a little bit more about the physical wellness as it relates to creatives. So I'm going to pick on my favorite student to start. Yes, your face. Based on the work that you do, Kenrese, do you actually get to work with creatives? And if so, how do you share information about balancing or talk to them about the importance of physical wellness?
Well, first of all, let me throw myself on the bus and say I've dated quite a few creatives. I won't call any names.
Go on now.
My ex-husband is actually a bass player for a very, very, known group and thing. And, I watched that. I myself, I went to music school and dance school. A lot of people don't know that about me. I had this incredible voice, but my father said, you're not going to be broke, so you're going to go the route that I want you to go.
Your father never lie.
right now, I have 4 graduate degrees because of that, right? But that's a whole other story for another time, Sherando. On a different note, though, I have worked with different creatives, and I seem to attract that type. Since I cut my locks, I think I attract less, when I had the waist length locks, for those of you who know me for a long time. But I find that it's no different, to be honest with you, in terms of people are people. All of us go to the bathroom, we all eat. We are people. And let me tell you something. If you want to change your state very quickly, there are 2 things you can do. Outside of nutrition, we're going to table that, is to play the right type of music and get your body moving. Let me tell you something. The last year, and I'm a very petite person, by the way, but last year I gained 15 pounds. To my shock and awe, I don't know how it happened, but I gained 15 pounds. And one of the things that I had a personal trainer come into my house, by the way, right? But I realized that my body, I want to touch back on the sleep and how I use movement to shift that, right? So my body was just under a lot of stress. I took on this new job running a company. I'm, like I mentioned at the top of the hour, I'm a VP in this company. We're doing something very different, clean medicine for the first time in the history of the world, right?
Nice.
And that has pharmaceutical properties in it. So I had to quickly figure out how am I going to change my state, right? And I want to tell you this. I said to myself, I can't go to the gym. I made all these rules. I cycle, and I made all these rules what I couldn't do. And just recently, something shifted, and I decided, you know what? I'm going to start getting back up at 5 o'clock. Tehuti knows, because we used to be on the UWO sometimes, right? Running the track and doing all these things. And I changed literally in the space of 3 months. I watch not only my physical body changed, right? And if you want to see how I look, you can check out my Instagram. But we'll talk about that.
I can't manage you and Savannah. Not too
IP,
IP.
right?
Love it.
but I want to show the guns. It's kind of cold over here, but let me tell you this, guys. If you really, really want to, whether you're a creative, and I want to speak specifically to a creative because I understand the mindset of how you can go into this deep space. Sometimes, like Savannah mentioned about that darkness that comes over you, and you want to go into that deep dark space. But no matter how you feel, and I want you to listen to me like your life depended on this, facts over feelings. I have that's one of my famous hashtags. No matter how you feel, make the time to move your body. Start with even just walking. Start with 5 minutes, and then the next day you increase. It's about consistency, right? 3 months ago, there are certain things I couldn't lift. Today, what I can lift now is just bizarre, okay? And my trainer looks like he's a what do you call it? A bodybuilder, right? That I'm working with. And I realized that it really comes down to being disciplined, but changing your state. I promise you, if you just start to do that, I love to cycle, so I do like 20 miles on a weekend. That's my thing, right? I also do yoga. It's not transferable. And I want to jump on this point before I hand over back to Sherando. A lot of times what I find with my clients or people that I work with, they think, okay, I do yoga, that's enough, or I run, that's enough. No, exercise is not transferable. So as you're getting older, you want to make sure that you are doing flexibility stuff. You also want to make sure you're doing endurance for the heart, the cardiovascular exercises, the one that makes the heart rate goes up to, for the protection of the heart. And you also want to do weight bearing exercises to protect the bones. So especially for women as you're aging, right? It's not transferable. So I do all different types of exercises, and I'm addicted, by the way. I love it. Listen, if you take away, if there are only 2 things I can do the rest of my life, exercise and any green vegetable, I'm good. I can live by that.
So not sex. Never mind. Wrong show. Moving on.
No, wait. My husband was not like that. And Sherando, one quick thing. So I recently, about a year and a half ago, I moved back from Germany, right? I was working for the United States Army because my husband also was in the Army. And I worked for the clinic, so I ran the wellness center. And I'm going to tell you this, those people, they are super fit, right? And that's part of where I picked up a different level of discipline. But I will tell you this, without the sleep, so, you know, I don't want to like say it's one thing. It's a myriad of different things on a continuum. The sleep, because you had people who were super fit, but then they weren't getting enough sleep. The body wasn't being reset. They're eating junk, so they look great. So it's really a integrative, you know, rounded process. It's not just one thing. I just want to drive that home because somebody might be listening and go, oh, I can run or I can do this. But it really comes down to you having that holistic mindset.
Yeah.
Tehuti mentioned
Sorry,
it right
I went
before.
off. I get passionate about this.
No, ma, you're good, man. Tehuti mentioned it before we went on the break when he said sleep and sun and food, you know, and there's a bunch of other elements that's necessary in order to actually achieve that wellness that we're seeking. So for sure, it's not just any one thing. I know for me, when I don't get 8 hours worth of sleep, I am not a nice person, just to put it mildly, right? And I know some people, somehow they function on a lot less, but I suppose if we really are going for that overall wellness, then it's important to understand that all of these elements are important. Tavia, what about you? How important has physical activity been to your wellness?
Critical. As I was listening to her, we were saying the same things in my head. Because for me, well, I wake up at 5 o'clock every day, 5 a.m., I try to jump out of that bed. And the first thing I do is exercise after I drink my water. I exercise. And for me, physical movement has a lot to do with your mental state. Because I find the more I exercise, my mind is different. It works differently. I'm writing my second book now, a poetic novel.
Nice.
And I started with it before I got exercising every day. And I deleted that first script. And now I'm starting on something else, and it is hilarious. I'm like, you write this? Like, this is you? And I love it because every day I make sure that there's movement. And what I find is not just in the morning, in the daytime, something may be happening and my mind is not right. I go and do some movement, some jumping jacks. So I find it doesn't have to be so deep for everybody. But what's important for me is routine. So I go to my bed around the same time. I wake up around the same time. I ensure I at least get in 10 or 15 minutes of exercise every day. So a routine keeps me going to make sure that my mind can stay right. I can be creative because I'm giving myself time to really go through that exercise. And just to put this pin in there as well, it's not just physical exercise, but mental. So I read a lot. I read a lot of books around the person I want to become. So if I find I'm procrastinating, I read about how not to procrastinate.
Right.
If I want to learn something, I read about that. So I find too, doing a lot of research or even reading or listening, for some of us who don't like to read the paper, listening to audiobooks or podcasts, feeding your mind, exercising your mind is also very, very important.
There is a misconception, and I used to run track in school, so I used to be a gym buff, and I even somehow ended up in that space where I thought, all right, so I have to go to the gym 4 days for the week, and I have to lift all this weight, and I have to in order to be fit and healthy and whatnot. And I realized it's not sustainable, particularly when you get to a certain age, a certain amounts of responsibilities. Yeah, I did mention I have 2 teenagers and a mother and all that good stuff. And so for a while, I was beating on myself because I thought, geez, my girl, do better than that. No man in a must can, and you're used to, and you're And that too feeds into what causes depression. These are things I'm discovering about myself.
Because you're unrealistic.
Absolutely. And so I was reading something on that famous that famous app that we all live by, Instagram. And I was reading something, and it said the important thing really is to show up for yourself.
Yes.
And I think it was Kenrese who said just now, even if it's 5 minutes, because at least you start there. So if you show up and you do 5 minutes today, do 5 minutes for the first week. And nothing wrong with that, You understand me? It's the importance is showing up and getting that routine in. And then afterwards, all right, maybe you do 10 minutes, like if you do Emancipation Park, you do 2 lap, your boss, and nothing, no feel bad. Go
And
ahead.
it boosts your self-confidence.
Absolutely.
Because you've
there's
set a goal
improvement.
for yourself and
Yes.
you say, okay, I've met it. Even if it's just, okay, today I'm going to do 5 minutes. I'm going to just do 10 jumping jacks and then go on the computer. You did it. Oh my
Yes.
God, you go,
Yes.
girl.
So
good
be
job.
realistic about what it is you can do, what it is you
Yep.
can accommodate in everything else that is happening in your life. And stop being so unrealistic that you beat up on yourself when you don't accomplish these ridiculous goals that you set. You know, Savannah, I sense that you wanted to jump in.
No, I was agreeing with you. Okay, so what my physical fitness has looked like is I've had a personal trainer where no matter where I was in the world, we'd log on, and we'd have our sessions, right? And then that became unsustainable just because the moving around, and then I don't necessarily get to do like a set sleep time and a set wake up time. It's just whenever I need to be awake, I'm awake, you know, different call times for different things. And so what I find myself doing now, and I really leaned into it at the beginning, just in the pandemic, is the meditation. And once I do the meditation, I can do the stretching afterwards. And then after the stretching afterwards, I usually find myself dancing to some music because I always have music around. It makes
That's exercise.
Yeah,
That's good enough.
exactly. So those are the things that those are the things that I fall into naturally right now. I definitely want to make it more intensive because I do want the mobility training, and I don't want to go, you know, all on cool up.
Right.
But for right now, that's what it looks like for me.
Okay. So, Tehuti, I know that you have clients that you deal with, and you've spoken a lot about, you know, the spirituality and the food that you put into your body. But how does physical activity, where does it sit in terms of yourself as an individual, and also how you advise your clients?
Well, first of all, what I advise has to be something that I would have had some kind of experience with, not just in terms of reading a book or, you know, seeing some study or what have you. I would have had to have undergone, you know, the process. So for example, before I started to supervise detoxification, which is a very important thing too, I had to do a detox for a period of time. Before I started to teach yoga stretches, I had to be studying yoga and teaching yoga for a period of time, because you have to really undergo the experience to be able to pass it on as a teacher to a client. But I just say, as far as exercise is concerned, that we are not designed to be sedentary creatures. And the mere fact that we have to create a word for movement, which is supposed to be such a part of our lives, is only an indication that we have shifted into a sedentary state. And now we have to find a way to get back out of it. No matter how you look at it, whether from the research perspective, whether from a common sense perspective, whether from listening to your body perspective, it is not sustainable to not exercise. You must exercise or it will catch up on you. So exercise, however, doesn't mean necessarily wearing a leotard and a headband and going into a gym, you know. It's just keeping the body moving, you know, and, you know, one has to get to a place where hopefully it's a joy to you, not just simply work. And then on the other hand, Kenrese said something which I think is so very critical, in that it's not so much about what you want to do, you know, it's about what you need to do. You know, the ancient term Heru refers to that divine quality in ancient African history, which has to do with choosing to do the divine thing rather than the other. And it's from Heru that the word hero arises. So you become a hero when you do the divine thing rather than just what you feel like. In fact, the lowest level of existence on the planet is when you just do what you feel like. You do this because you want to. You just feel like it. You don't do this because you just don't feel like doing it. What about what your body needs? So there is a spiritual element, you know, and this is where also the self-love comes into being, where we have to be able to understand that the management of the body in the beginning needs some discipline. And hopefully that discipline evolves to a place where it can become a joy. And so then you transform.
Right. So yes, again, it's about pushing yourself and then hoping that we develop a routine that we can settle into. In the event that you're just joining us, of course, this is Reggae University, and this is a part of the Reggae Month celebration. And today we're talking about staying fit in this rat race, mental, physical, and spiritual wellness for creatives. And we have some sponsors that have allowed us to make all of this possible. We have Creation Foods, Footprints Cafe, AutoSmart, Starlight Production, VM Group, Chase Fund, and the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment, and Sport. And so far we've been having a spirited discussion about various aspects of wellness. And we have spoken about what wellness really means. You know, it's not just any one thing. It's not just the physical or the emotional. There's also the spiritual, you know, there's the psychological. There are all of those that's important in order for you to actually feel balanced. But we've been talking about, like, so for all of us here, we've all gone on a journey, you know, and we're still on journeys, you know, but in order to get to the place where we can be in this position where we're now giving advice, we had to transition. So what I would love for you guys to share with me is what that story is that put you in that position where you had to transition from where you were to where you are now. And how did you get there? Because sometimes it's easy to talk from the place already being there. But for the person who doesn't know how to get there, they're intimidated because it's like, but me sit down in my couch, in my dark, and me contented right there, so, you know, and then ray, and look how them are going, and them, no. So we all were there, and we had to get here. So please, I'd love to hear some of your stories about why you felt the need to and how you transitioned to where you are now.
Let me start.
Sure.
It wasn't an aha moment. It was an acknowledgement for me that joy and peace is my birthright. And I knew that that is something that I needed to accomplish, and I couldn't accomplish it by procrastinating, by saying I'm gonna write this book and don't write it, or saying I need to launch a foundation and don't do it, or I need to do certain projects and don't do it. Not accomplishing what I set out for myself was becoming very difficult to handle for me emotionally. And I believe a lot of us, we have those feelings and we just ride them through. We go on autopilot through the day with all of these feelings bogged down inside of us on our heads. But you don't have to. You can be light and free and airy. And I just chose that I don't want this anymore. I don't want to feel that guilt of not doing what I said I'm going to do. So I decided to change, and I did. Wow. I started reading books that would have been beneficial to me. Right now I read 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, one of probably 8 books. I'm constantly reading books. I'm constantly listening to things that I believe will be beneficial to me, and then I'm doing it.
Right.
So if I say, okay, Tavia, you're gonna launch a foundation, which I am, by the way, I do it.
Put it out there.
I pick up the phone and I call somebody and I say, hey, I'm doing this thing. Can you support me with it? I do it. And so what I find is we sit, we think about all these things that we want to do. We think about all the reasons why we can't. We think about all the feelings that we have that is preventing us from doing it. Just get up and do it. Yeah. It's a choice. We can choose to sit and be unwell, mentally, physically, emotionally, or we can choose to be well. When you're hungry, do you get up and make kale and pak choy and sweet potato or some chicken? Do you do that, or do you go to the drive-thru and just buy junk food every day? You have a choice.
Yeah.
You can choose to eat healthy. You can choose to exercise. You can choose to be around people, because that's also important. You can work on your mental health till you're tired, but if every day you're around people who are draining you and who are the opposite of who you want to be, then it's pointless.
Yeah.
So I just recognize you can choose. If you want to do it, just do it.
Yeah.
Just choose to do it and get up every day and make that one step, one step
Right.
towards doing it.
I was about to add that because again we are where we are because and I don't know that any of us is perfect. None of us are perfect, right?
No.
But we've somehow been able to make a transition to be able to have this conversation because we made a choice.
Yeah.
But the thing to remember as well is in making that choice and in somebody saying to you, just do it, just do it, just do it. The important thing is to one step at a time. Just a little piece at a time. You know, and again, don't try bite the whole cake one time. You will choke. And then you get demotivated and then you can't bother.
And
you
a quick thing to that is if you cannot do it by yourself, find someone who can help you too.
There you go. There you go. There you
And ask them to help you. So that vulnerability to ask for help, to say, hey, I want to be this person or I want to do this thing, but I don't know how. I don't know where to start. Can you help me to do it?
Yeah.
Works for
If I
me.
could just jump in here and
Please.
say that it's an individual thing, you know, the journey is an individual journey. And some people, they will want to buy the whole cake and they'll just jump straight into it and they're ready for full transformation. Other people, one step at a time. The key is really being honest with yourself. In my personal transformation, I got to a point where I used to smoke, I used to drink socially, I used to eat meat, and I got to a point where I experienced a spiritual transformation, which made me see my body as a kind of a temple, which I needed to keep clean. So everything then came under question. The stuff that I'm putting in my body in the name of food, you know, what's happening to my lungs every time I pick up a cigarette, you know, so everything stopped instantly. And it happened effortlessly because everything was in place in terms of what was going on in my headspace. So the journey is personal. I think one of the most important things on the journey is to detox and to do some of these mind quieting things that were mentioned, like for example what Tavia said, the gardening, how that stillness brought her closer to herself. Yoga certainly helps to do that too, you know. But to get to a place where you start to listen to yourself and start to correlate the consequences of our actions. Okay, you have eaten a certain type of meal.
It make you
How
feel a
do
certain
you
way.
feel later on in the evening? Do you have mucus in the morning? You know, you have exercise today. How do I feel the following day? You know, start to make those connections. And then, you know, with that journey of self-knowledge on the way, then it's just a matter of taking it one step at a time.
Yep.
Right. I appreciate that. Sevana, Kenrese, who wants to jump in?
Oh,
Go ahead, Savannah.
oh yeah, no, I'm that person. I'm the one who eats off the whole cake, and then I think because I've always been incredibly ambitious. You know, I moved out when I was 16. I was like, I'm making a life for myself. I'm gonna pursue music. I'm gonna get this done, and I'm gonna travel the world, and I'm gonna be this. And this is, I had this like really huge image of who I wanted to be. I wanted to be better than, I wanted to be bigger than, and not necessarily other people, but just where I'm coming from. And that, you hit a wall doing that. You hit a wall, and it's me, when I hit the wall and I had my first season of like depression, you know, like 19 turning 20, that's when I was like, oh, so you can't just keep this running like this. Oh, you
actually need to sit down.
Exactly.
Yep,
You
take a
can't,
moment.
exactly. You can't just have the tree job and then I go Jamnesia and then I try to studio. That's not something that you can do.
It's not sustainable.
Exactly. So that is, and being obsessed with evolution, right? For myself, I think I only saw it in one dimension first, where it's like, you know, social hierarchy and then obviously financial stability and all the rest of it. I think it just, I don't know if it was a eureka moment, but it was definitely, after that season, I was just like, okay, well, then you need to be gentle with yourself, you know? So right now, I talk to myself a lot. I pour into myself a lot because I don't find that other people know how to do that.
I don't.
Yeah.
Some of them don't even know how to pour into them own selves, much less to pour into you.
Exactly. So what, I've just gotten to the place where I'll say things to myself, no, it's okay. I love you. It's all right. You're frightened right now, but it's okay. Yeah. And sometimes that time, it takes a day to just sit down and talk to yourself, and then you're back to normal. So I don't know if I've achieved balance, because I still find, because, my goal is to run a record label, and make sure that it's ethical, and be able to be a shelter for myself, and to be that buffer, right? As a Black woman representing music in Jamaica and then also the Caribbean. It's a whole thing in my mind. But I still find that I burn out, but I think I'm just getting a little bit better at understanding the balance of that.
There's something that I do with me.
Yeah.
Because I was where you were when I was your age. I don't know how you are, but I'm sure you're probably about 20 years younger than me. Black don't crack me.
You go, girl.
And I know, like, whatever. And I remember just going and going and going. When I was at the University at the West Indies at Maat doing a degree in broadcast journalism.
Yeah.
And I was doing a program in the morning and on CVM television. And I was on Fame FM in the evenings. And I was doing a play called Dirty Diana at night. So I would go from school to the radio station, to the television station, to going on stage. And I was just going and going and going. And it was like, listen, I'm going to tell you something. I have ambition now. I'm going to get this now. I'm going to get that now. I'm going now. I'm going now. I'm going to have nobody where push me now. I'm going to come from the family with the money now. So I'm going to make this work. And I kept going and going and going. And I woke up one day and I realized that, yes, I've achieved, because when you work hard, you will achieve, yes?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, at the end of the line, I had to stop and say to myself, why all of this? Just take your time.
Yeah.
Life is literally going nowhere.
Nope.
And when you burn out when you're too young, when you get older, you have nothing left. And it is at that stage where you have all that experience that you can actually feed into some of these things that you want to achieve. It's easier said than done, especially when you're young and you're ambitious. You just want to keep going. But I have learned that daily, sometimes I'll get up, and because what I do for a living is easy to me because I've been doing it for so long, right? And I find that I'll get up, I'll have something to do, and I procrastinate a bit. I will admit that freely.
We all do.
And there you go. Thank you for making me feel better. Right? And I will have something to do, but because I know that it is something that I can get done in an hour, I just leave it. Until maybe I have 3 hours leave, and then I do it, and I look it over, and I whatever. And then the mindset will come in sometime like, my girl, I saw lazy, get up and do what you have to do now, man. And I stop, and I talk to me a lot too, know? You darling, I do it a lot.
So important.
The other day, my son said to me, Mommy, something glitching in your brain. I said, why you said that? Because you're talking to yourself. I said, and I would say to me, it's okay, today can be a day that you relax. Nothing wrong with that. Sometimes you can take off a cape, right? Because Superwoman overrated. And just ease yourself a little bit. You see what I say? You know? And so I realized that for me, I need to talk to me and remind me that I can be still. It's okay to not do all the time over and over and over.
Nothingness.
Yes, and it doesn't mean that you're worthless. It don't mean that you're lazy. It means that you need balance.
Yes,
that's what it is.
I think we've learned that from like our mothers and grandmothers, right? Especially for those of us who grew up where it's the mother leading the household.
Yeah.
So you grow up and you see a mother kill out yourself to get
doing
everything done. So it's created this legacy of I'm not enough until I'm not enough unless. It's kind of wicked. Because I feel like it might be unique. I think it's unique to Black women.
Yeah, that's a study that I had to be interested in. I want Kenrese to come in because I know that we're running short on time when the argument's sweet at this hour. Please feel free to share before we wrap.
Wow, as I listen to everybody's transformation story, I'm like, oh my gosh, what do I say? What do I say? But my transformation was actually observation rather than it being necessarily to self. I grew up, my dad is a farmer, a businessman, but he has a farm, used to export a lot. So I grew up eating healthy foods. I'm a product of that, right? So it wasn't like I had to have this epiphany. But what happened is when I was working in corporate Jamaica and I had my nice big job and I was, doing all this technological stuff and moving and shaking, I had the opportunity to travel over 30 odd markets, where digital had footprint. I was a head of products, particular for a certain area. And every time I would travel, and this is me now being judgmental, so let me just put that out there, but I would travel, and that's when, of course, my body was super perfect, by the way. I would see all of these colleagues who would come into the business, and in short order, they look like, swollen. They'd be getting all these different health issues, right? So that kind of started the journey of me assessing and saying, I don't think that's what I want to do with my life, And I'd already had my first degree in computer science, my first master's in technology. And then I started researching, like, no, I have to figure out this whole nutrition and health thing, because when everybody else was eating crap, I was always the one saying, if we went to the Strawberry Hill or where we have our product meetings, I was always, where are the fruits, where are the vegetables, and I was always the odd person out.
Yeah.
So I realized quickly that I love this work. I've given 10 years of my life here, not just to digital, but to cable and wireless, right? I was the only person in the Caribbean that did the work I did. So, I was sought after, right? And I just decided, I don't want to do this. So I literally started studying health coaching at a school called Institute for Integrative Nutrition, which I'm still an ambassador to this day. And that's how I got my foot wet into the whole health coaching space. And while I'm doing that, I think somewhere along the journey, I think a little bit before that, I would have met Tehuti. That seed would have been planted. I started studying. And then one day I went to them and I said, hey, I'm going to quit. And luckily for me, I got a nice little check, because I was valuable to the organization. And I was able to open my practice. And one of my first clients, if she's listening, Donna Duncan from GMMB was one of my first clients. I was nervous as heck because here I am, this little girl coaching this woman who is so powerful. And for some reason, I just started attracting those type of persons to my private practice. Digicel called me back to start their first wellness program, and it just started to evolve. And then I think somewhere about that point, I went to New York to the school. I decided to just go and live in a hotel for 6 months, and in the middle of Manhattan, working for IIN free, right? I wasn't being paid, but thank God I was smart with my money when I was making it. And that became the evolution of Kenrese. And
Amazing.
I want to tell you that it's funny though, because I'm back in corporate. And if you look at older stories, if you should Google me under my old name, you'll see stories about me leaving corporate. And there was a slight bit of embarrassment to say, but what are you doing back here? But the difference with the transformation is that I am a lot older, right? That's Savannah. And by the way, I'm a huge fan. I love your music. I'm definitely going to connect with you because I know I can help you. And,
yes, please. I need it.
No, man, definitely. It's funny. I was listening to your music this morning in my car on the way to the gym.
Really?
Because when I want a vibe is always that little crew and things. So, but
Aww.
that's another story for another time. Right. But I'll tell you this, guys, my transformation, I want to say there were several junctions to it. I think where I had the biggest epiphany though was when I remarried. I love my dear husband. And we moved to Germany. And that, when living in Europe, guys, is such a different vibe. For those of you who have been, you know the vibe. It's so different from the rat race here in America and what Jamaica has become, right? I love my country, but we kind of take on a lot of the American ideology. Mm-hmm. It's such a slower pace. People actually put away their cell phones. People eat dinner, go out for bike rides in Belgium. Mm-hmm. There's nobody driving cars. Everybody's on their bikes, Mm-hmm. And that transformation for me happened where I recognized that I don't have to be what the world says I need to be. I just need to be what Kenrese wants. Mm. So when everybody else was going after the money, all my friends, I was actually doing what people do in retirement, which was traveling and living. Don't ask me how I afforded it, but that's a whole other story.
That's another story, but the important
right, for another
thing,
time. I'm sure there'll be a part 2, but I will say this, coming back to America, taking on this job, right, and working for this clean medicine company, it's called Genexa, by the way. We've gotten a lot of awards and doing all these great things.
Like she's
I
married.
had to, last year was my breaking point year where I had to check myself, mm-hmm. which is why I was telling you guys earlier that I had to get myself back into the gym because I realized I'd veered so far left from my integrative practices during that 1 year period.
Kenrese, my sincerest apologies, only because you're on the clock. but we definitely will have to have a part 2 to this.
Part 2.
And of course, before we go, we're gonna close out with a performance. But before we go, I want to say thanks to each and every one of you for taking the time to be with us today and for sharing with myself, with each other, and with our audience. And I hope that for those of you who tuned in, you were able to walk away with something that is of some value to you. This is, of course, just one aspect of the Reggae Month celebration. This is Reggae University, and today we're talking about staying fit in this rat race, mental, physical, and spiritual wellness for creatives and beyond, adding that part. And of course, I'm saying thanks to our sponsors, Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment, and Sport, Chase Fund, VMBS Group, Auto Smart, Starlight Production, Footprints Cafe, Creative Foods. My name is Sherando Ferril. I had the pleasure of guiding this conversation today and sharing some of my own experiences with you. We're going to close out with another of the finalists in JaRIA, the Reggae IG Emerging Talent, and this performer is called Hicks. Have yourselves a wonderful, wonderful evening.
Yay.
Hey everyone, I'm Nix Taylor, and this is Whatever.
Turn your eyes away from the bigger things of life, and always do what's right, and just follow your inner light, because the things of the world, the things that we don't deserve, they are cruel. Inside, and it pains my heart to the truth of you. Everything is now what it seems with you. I'm holding my head straight and I'm listening to me, 'cause everything is now what it seems when it comes on to you. So I'm through. I'm opening my heart and letting go. I'm trusting in myself, go with the flow. Won't ever be broken, even when shaken. I'm ready for whatever, trust me, all it gets is better, better. I'm ready for whatever, 'cause all it gets is better, better. I know the world around you seems hard sometimes. I know that struggle even got you down last night, and it hurts inside. You were supposed to be by my side, my side. 'Cause everything is now what it seems. I'm holding my head straight now. Believe in listening a word now. Beg you please, in listening a word now. Beg you.
Reggae Month is February. February is Reggae Month. Come catch the rhythm virtually. We gone online totally on Reggae Month TV. Mega reggae concerts, interesting reggae documentaries, informative reggae symposia, and lots more. Online daily from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. on PBCJ, Jam Vision, JCDC Facebook page, and several other cable and social media platforms. Details available on the Reggae Jamaica mobile app, Reggae Month TV. Tune in daily and be entertained and informed.
In the Reggae studio with our reggae ambassadors as they reveal the other side of the reggae beat outside the spotlight.
I said to you, this is dedicated to you. Put on your favorite dancing shoe. Everybody come on, we do the boogaloo. Come on now singing this one up to you. Lord have mercy.
My name is Leroy Sibbles, Leroy Anthony Sibbles to be exact, right? Former lead singer of the Eptones, born in Trenchtown, left Kingston Senior School and went to start learning electrical welding was my first thing before music. While being there, I was always singing, you know, and humming other people's songs and stuff while I'm doing my thing. And you know, other members, you know, other workers would be always telling me, "You sound good, you know, why don't you? Why don't you?" You know? And I was just taking it for a joke too, until a group was formed back in Trenchtown, around in my corner, you know. And I got involved, and that's when I really started getting involved. And apart from that, I used to be singing, you know, on Sundays, me and my mom, you know, after cooking, eating and stuff, because I was the only male child back then. You know, my brothers came after and they were, you know, younger, you know, much, you know, smaller. So I was the one that would be able to relate with my, you know, mom. I'd be listening back then, you know, to foreign instrumental songs, right? And be putting words to it just like that, you know, and singing, and it would be freaking people out. And I wasn't even aware of what I was doing. I wasn't even conscious of, you know, doing this. It was just happening. You know, something inside there, you know, working out itself away, you know what I mean? So the group was formed, you know, it was like 3 guys and a girl, and I, you know, was attracted to that. I was very close to it, you know, tried to be a part of it. Eventually was a backup singer in there. You know, they wrote a couple of songs. We went to Duke Reed, that was Treasure Isle downtown, Bond Street, if I remember clearly, and sorry, we were told to come back again, you know, come in, and we auditioned, they said come back, but the group broke up before we even got to recording there.
Come with me, my love, to the sea of love. I wanna tell you how much I love you. Do you remember the time we met? That's a day I know I won't forget. I wanna tell you how much I love you. Come with me to the sea of love. Do you remember the time we met? That's a day I know I won't forget. I wanna tell you how much I love you. Come with me to the sea of love. Do you remember the time we met? That's a day I know I won't forget. I wanna tell you how much I love you. I love you. Oh, I love you.
Because of that group, the first money I got throwing a partner kind of thing, I bought a acoustic guitar. freaked my mom out like crazy. Cause she said, the first money you get, want the shoes, want the clothes, want the, yeah. You know what I mean? But I got a guitar because I felt that I was led subconsciously into all this, you know, and felt it and loved it. There was this urge, this emptiness for this, you know, the space to be filled with all this music. Now, I got myself my guitar, I bought from a guy, and boom, boom, and there was a dread called Huntley. Gave me my first spliff and my first guitar lessons, you know, and sent me on. I was on my way right now, and boom, the Heptones came in, group, so we're locking that in. They came one night, like about 2 weeks after we got together, and said, this guy called Kenlock Agency wants some, groups to record and stuff. I was so happy, boom. That inspired me so much. I wrote 2 songs the said night. My first 2 songs I ever wrote was called Gunman Coming to Town, and another one called Schoolgirls. We went down to Kenlock, he heard them. We recorded. I was walking down King Street. This was more up-tempo thing. And the people I something to meet, they were gunmen. Gunmen coming to town. The guy said, coming to town. Gunmen. Yeah. They took out their, something like, they took out their 44. And like people running out through the door, this what they got, It was, my first recording, young and, I think, but we did that. First time I heard that on the Radio Fusion, though. God damn it, out my house, right down the bush. Listen me! That was my biggest day in my life, The biggest day in my life when I heard that song. Stupid little song, But it was my greatest triumph, my first major. You couldn't believe how I felt, man. I ran myself out of breath. It's like the British are coming. Yeah, man. So those songs played for a little while, and they didn't do too well with Kenlock because I guess he was no big producer or whatever. He was out of the picture. But that gave us major motivation now. I was writing. I even stopped going to the trade thing that I used to do, my electrical welding stuff. And I stayed home when the other guys was still doing their hustling in the days. I stayed home and just write songs. I was totally, empowered with this thing. And I stayed home and write songs. And every night I would be introducing them to new songs. Now I was writer, arranger, and I just love this.
Girl, I loved you more than anything in this old world. Why did you leave me to cry? Oh, my baby, at times that I've passed you by, you could see the teardrops rolling down my eyes. Why did you leave me to cry? Oh, my baby, I wanted you to be a bride, and forever you would stay by my side. Why did you leave me to cry? Oh, my honey, oh, now I'm so all alone. I've got no one to call my very own. Why did you leave me to cry? Oh, my get no one to call my very own. Why did you leave me to cry? Why did you leave? Why did you leave me? Why to cry? Why did you leave me? Tell me why. Why did you leave me to cry?
When I went to Studio One, I went around them big musicians and all them jazz players, and I seek for, show me this one, and I go home and fight it with my finger until I learn it, and always been, trying to improve my musical abilities on my guitar, learning all the chords I could and stuff like that. And those are stuff that helped me to write better songs too. We got a rehearsal room. Well, I guess the rehearsal room came after we went to Studio One. Went to Studio One, we were auditioned by Ken Booth and the Gay Lads, right? And they seemed to like us. They said, come back in a week, and we started recording. Our first recording for Coxsone was A Change Has Got to Come. And we did make a change because that was, when we went there, it was like that upbeat ska, thing was happening. And we brought the rocksteady thing in there too, because we came in with stuff like Ting-a-ling-a-ling, A Change Has Got to Come. All these songs were slower songs. So it enabled the musicians, because it's all about the singers, Yeah, because you bring your song, the guy have to play to what you have, So we brought this new style, this slowing down the whole thing, the rocksteady thing. Our very first major hit was Fatty Fatty, right? Because a lot of songs we did before that were very good and rare, but when we did Fatty Fatty, then that's when the boom, the heptones were really made, And then what happened was it played like about 3-4 times on the radio till someone figured that these lyrics are suggestive, so we won't play it out there no more. But at that time, there were like 1 million jukeboxes there was the time of jukeboxes. Every bar in Kingston had a jukebox. And every turn I make, it was Fatty Fatty playing on that. Can you imagine that feeling again, You, a little kid from nowhere, just come up and hearing yourself everywhere you turn. It was almost maddening.
I need a fat girl tonight. I need a very, very fat girl tonight. I'm in the mood, girl. I'm in the mood. I need some food, I need some food. I'm feeling rude. I'm feeling rude. I say no. When you feel it, girl, you're gonna say it is so nice. I say no. When you feel it, girl, you're gonna say it is so nice. Girl, I know you want it. I say you want it tonight. And you're gonna get a lot of it. Get it tonight. Oh, get it galore, girl. Get it galore. You won't want no more. Want no more. And that's for sure. That's for sure. See the no, see the fatty, see that. How you feel it? See that. How you like it? See that. How it nice you? So nice. Alright. So nice. I know you want it. I say you want it tonight. And you're gonna get a lot of it. Get it tonight. Get it galore. Girl, I say get it galore. You won't want no more. Oh, I say want no more. And that's for sure. Fatty, that's for sure. I say no. When you feel it, girl, you're gonna say it is so nice. I say no. When you feel it, girl, you're gonna say it is so nice. You feel it now. See that I know you could have loved it. In there, I'm gonna give it. See there, I'm your loving now. In there, I know you love it. See there, but if I